Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining me. I'm Tomás Garza, and I'm the host of A Course in Miracles 365 Awakening to Love here on Enlightened World Network. And we are live. All right. So I really appreciate all of you who have joined in and watched the show here. We've been running it for the past 6 months here on the network, and we're covering a tremendous volume of important, in fact, critically important spiritual ideas in the workbook for students of A Course in Miracles. And well, where we are today is there are 365 lessons, hence part of the title of this live stream. And we're on lesson 132 today. And it's a big, important one that will challenge everything you currently believe. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. I hope that you may find the answer to that is yes. And if it's no, that's okay too. Not a problem. What I'm about to say is directly from the Course. In other words, Jesus had this transcribed on his behalf for all of us in the 1960s and 1970s. If you're not familiar with the history of A Course in Miracles, it's very, very interesting. And I invite you to Google that and search about this. It's a very interesting story. It's an inspired body of work, and it aims to challenge. It really does. Challenge everything you now believe, which I invite you to do with a smile on my face because it's kind of funny. It is, isn't it? I mean, we have to approach spirituality with a sense of humor because it's ridiculous and sad, yes, but it's also funny if you allow it to be how we get in our own way. And you can get to a point in your practice, whatever that looks like for you, where when you catch yourself falling back into your habitual patterns of behavior, you're able to laugh about it. Because after a certain point, it's ridiculous. So up until that point, we don't get the feeling it's ridiculous. In fact, it's painful. And these ideas will challenge everything you currently believe. And I'm glad. So if you're still watching, I invite you to stick with this and continue because you may have run across similar difficulties if you've gone through the workbook before. We're talking about lesson 132 here. And if you have questions and comments, my intent by showing up here on the network live 6 days a week on the average here is to generate some discussion and to help create some community. So to the extent that you have questions, comments, or if you'd just like to pop in and say hello, you're more than welcome to do that. Leave comments here. I'll get to them in a few minutes here on the live. And those that I don't get to while I'm broadcasting live, I will address later on in the day. So there've been some really excellent questions and some very, very wonderful observations from people. So I absolutely 100% encourage that. So today's idea is I loose the world from all I thought it was. Okay? Loose meaning free, free up. Now, loosen the chains. Yeah? Really let go. I loose the world from all I thought it was. What do you think the world is? How do you think it was created? I wonder, right? This is a question that we should all ask ourselves on the spiritual path. What is it? How was it created? And of course, who am I? Of course, that as well. So let's delve into what the Course means by loosing the world, releasing or freeing the world from all that we thought it was. So we're raised to think it's real. We may have been raised, as I was, in a Judeo-Christian tradition that insists quite plainly that God made the world. A Course in Miracles tells us otherwise, which the first time I read that and heard that, it was a tremendous relief to me and a confirmation of something that I felt and knew as I sat there bored out of my mind in Sunday school as a kid, wishing to challenge the adult leaders of the class who really didn't know what they were getting into with me. I was that kid. So after a certain point, I just kind of sat back quietly and reserved all comments and questions to myself. I asked them internally because the adult leaders were unable to answer them to my satisfaction. So you may have had this direct experience of the world not being what our science books tell us it is. We're thrust here, and it appears, and we could come to believe, many of us do, that we're just dropped here. Here we are, dropped into this pre-existing pit of, well, alternating beauty and suffering. Now, there are people that appear to have really, really difficult lives. Perhaps you count yourself among those. What happens in a human experience is we are on a yo-yo, we're on a roller coaster, and we alternate between really beautiful experiences and experiences that are painful. And sometimes we have more of one than the other, but nothing is permanent. In this world, our experience shows us that even the most blissful states here in the world don't last. The good news is neither do the most painful. Now, it doesn't feel like that when we're in the midst of suffering, does it? Which is how many of us find spiritual practice, is we formulate a thought that there's got to be something more to it than this. And perhaps we've been told that there's something more to it than this. So the question is, what do you think the world is? How do you think it was made? All right. So a lot of people out there, and a lot of people that are involved in a spiritual path, spend a lot of time on what, in New Age terms, in popular culture terms here in the 21st century, we call manifestation. Okay, so let's break this down here. Manifestation of what exactly? Well, for many people, it's manifestation of what we desire in the world of form, in what passes for reality. Here in the world of form, there are a lot of people and a lot of teachers teaching creative manifestation. I mean, you name it, whatever you want to name it. So yes, the mind is extraordinarily powerful. It can make things. However, after a certain point on the spiritual path, it's not about how wealthy you are, or how sexy your spouse or partner is, or how sexy you feel you are. It's not about the size of your home or the quality of your new threads, your new ride. Yeah, none of that, is it? Nothing against those. We have a brand new car in our driveway, which is pretty cool with all the gadgets. It's a 2021 Nissan, and because it's brand new, I haven't had a new car in a long, long time. And honestly, I don't even know how to operate some of the electronic gadgets. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool that it's got Bluetooth audio and things. But that's not the point of spiritual practice. I invite you to go beyond that. I invite you to go beyond simply sating your desires here in the world today. So I have nothing against more money, hot, sexy bods, a nice car, nothing against any of that, because we may as well have some fun while we're here. However, we are blessed. We're incredibly blessed in this lifetime. You are incredibly blessed watching Enlightened World Network. You have the tools, you have the intelligence, and the capability to go beyond suffering completely. So the question becomes, are you ready to do that? I invite you to go beyond and at least consider today's ideas. Truly, I do. I invite you to at least entertain these notions, even if you find them utterly repugnant. That's perfectly okay. You can always come back to them later, because each of us will, whether we do it today or whether we do it in another lifetime. Really, we can put off the inevitable, but the inevitable is still the inevitable. And you know what? We should be glad that that's the case. And I hope that you are. Because awakening is the inevitable. Nothing more, nothing less. The question is when we desire to have that, when we choose that. All right. So, some ideas. We didn't just get dropped in the world. I'm on lesson 132 in the workbook, and I really invite you to pore over the commentary, the written commentary for today's lesson, which you can find online. You don't have to have the book. So that's, if you're curious, not having a physical copy of the book is no reason not to search for the information, which is readily available to the entire planet on the World Wide Web. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. In other words, there's no excuses. So we're not dropped here in this pre-existing cauldron of hatred, strife, and war. We're not just put here. Mind, our mind, is the source of all that we see. Okay? Mind is the source of all that we see. We're seeing what we've chosen. As I know you've been following along here on the lives. We're not just dropped in here at random. We see what we've chosen to see. Okay, so that's a very important idea. And it's what we wish that we're seeing. That is what we're experiencing as the world. It really is. It's a fabrication. Yeah, I'll use that word. It's the first one that came to mind. Fabrication of our own mind. All right. So we're seeing what we wish to see now, rather than allow that to be something dreadful. That's where our salvation lies. That's where our release lies. So that's a good thing, that we see what we wish to see. What happens? We change our minds about what we wish to see. We wish to see a world forgiven. We see what we wish to see. This is why manifestation of physical objects like a hot new partner and a new car, new job offer, work. We see what we wish to see. I invite you to go beyond that. And eventually you will. Each of us will, by the way. Doesn't matter when, doesn't have to be today. So in the commentary for today, the workbook recites an idea that you'll see a lot in the text of A Course in Miracles, and that is, ideas leave not their source, okay? Ideas leave not their source. Here's what it means in this context. If you change your mind about what you want to see, what you see changes. That's straight out of Manifestation. I mean, it's not the exact quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer, but it's pretty close, right? You follow me on that. Yeah. And here's the verbatim language from the Course. It says, change but your mind, in other words, change only your mind, on what you want to see, and all the world must change accordingly. Ideas leave not their source. Right? It's restated all of the time. We made the world we see. We can change our minds about it. In other words, we can unmake it. We can choose to experience joy rather than suffering. Is that not what you want? You will only find temporary joy in a new car. And because it's temporary, it's not real, is it? So, paragraph 6 here in lesson 132 says something that's really, really bold. There is no world. Remember, in the summary of A Course in Miracles, it states quite clearly that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Okay, so we think that we've been dropped in a world separate from ourselves. We have our separate experiences, being separate from other people, having separate wants, separate needs, separate proclivities and tastes and desires and all of that. It's the world of form. It's the world of time, space, the world of the ego. Course just comes right out and says it. There is no world. Are you ready to entertain that idea? Are you ready to accept that idea? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe you're ready to at least entertain it, but this will not be the last time that you hear it. And you'll hear it from many people in this lifetime, in the next, in different forms, different ways. I'm just happening to be in your experience saying it right now. And I'm quoting, by the way, Workbook Lesson 132. I, Tomás Garza, whoever that is not making this up. There is no world. We're talking ultimate truth here. Now, for those who are prepared to entertain this idea, true healing is possible. Liberation is possible. The Course says that some of these ideas, and it says at the introduction to the workbook that we're going through right now, some of these ideas may seem quite shocking and you may resist some of them totally. If you do, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, it's kind of normal that this would appear shocking, unless you happen to have been raised by parents in a tradition where these were the types of ideas that surrounded you and helped mold you. That was not the case for me, and I suspect it's not the case for most of you. If you're able to accept the lesson now that there is no world, healing, total true healing is available to you. It's all a matter of changing our minds. So how do we do that? Well, we begin to entertain these ideas and we engage in spiritual practice. We get in touch with our own inner teacher. That is my role and function in bringing this live stream to you, is to inspire you to get in touch with your inner teacher, really, truly, not surface level, deeply at the core, heart level, right? Your deepest levels of being. I invite you to not mess around. You know if you're messing around spiritually and dabbling. People do it with this workbook all the time, don't they? They go in and they do maybe the first 5 lessons, and then they leave it off for 6, 7 years or something like that. Maybe that's happened to you. If it is, if that's happened, so what? So what? You have the present moment right now to change your mind. You have the present moment, if you're so inclined, if you're feeling called, to dive right back in. And if that's the case, I invite you to do that. That's getting in touch with your inner teacher. This could be another spiritual practice completely. The course is Universal Spirituality. It's a self-study curriculum. It's designed to help you get in touch with your inner teacher, whoever that may be. Because ultimately there's one teacher in the end. There's just oneness. It's part of what's meant by someone saying there is no world. Ideas leave not their source. Yeah, I invite you to go through and read and pore over this language and see if it hits with you, to see if it resonates and strikes a chord. Each of us must go beyond where we currently are in terms of our spiritual practice. We know this, so we continue to feel called to show up. So hopefully you're getting a really strong call. And the Course says something that is really, really powerful here. I want to restate it here, is that let yourself be led as far as you can go in this lifetime. Might be all the way to full awakening. Hopefully that's the case. If it's not, that's all right. Yeah, let yourself be led as far along the path as you're able to go. You'll know what the limit is. I mean, it's your path. You're the one walking it. Yeah. Let yourself be led along the road to truth. You may deviate and turn away, and you may come back. But if you're ready to walk the road, nothing less than full awakening is available to you. It is each of our birthright, each of our destiny. And I mean that. So I'm happy to take questions and comments today. I've said a lot, and this live stream is maximum a half an hour. So clearly there's more that could be said about this. And you could really say this about every single lesson in the workbook here. There's so much richness and depth. I mean, consider the source of this material, Jesus. Yeah. So, I'm not making this up. When I quote from the Course, it didn't come out of my mouth. I didn't write this. It's inspired because, well, consider the source. And what I wish that everyone would take away from this short discussion is a sense of the power of your own mind. You have the power to make this world. You have the power to unmake it. I think that we grossly, grossly underestimate the power that we are. So let's wake up to that, shall we? Yeah, let's do. I invite you to join me. All right. So Dennis and Prince, hello. How are you guys? Thank you for the shares and for the comments. I appreciate you joining me here. And as always, I would love to hear from you. So if you're watching this, whether it's on the replay or here live, feel free to give me a shout out. Let me know you're out there. And yes, any questions or comments, I'm here to help. I'm here to inspire you to get in touch with your inner teacher. I don't know what that looks like for you, but I'm really glad I got in touch with mine, because you want to talk about a game changer? Oh yeah, baby. Game changer. We'll see you tomorrow. Actually, 2 days from now. I'll be on an airplane tomorrow. But when I see you again, we're going to have another really hard-hitting lesson in the workbook. So I hope that you watch this and it inspires you to think and question everything, the foundations of everything that you now believe. Nothing more, nothing less.